So we had an old remedy at home where you put some butter on it. To take away the sting. So I had gone and put the butter on it. And wherever I heard this, I don't know. I heard you're supposed to put some vanilla flavoring on it too. So I put a little vanilla flavoring on it to take away that sting. And I laughed because Sharika used to tell me, "What you trying to do? Make a potato pie on your floor?" So anyway, I took my sandwich upstairs to get in the bed to eat my sandwich. And about 1 o'clock, I get this phone call, and somebody's on the phone telling me my daughter been shot. Well, first they told me they were from Carolina Medical. I was like, now look, y'all been calling me. I had a surgery because I twisted my ankle and had to get a rod put in my ankle. I hadn't paid all that bills. And I'm like, well, you know, I won't take your calls during the day. I won't take them in the evening. I won't take them on the weekend. And y'all gonna call me late at night trying to collect this money. I was mad. And I was like, Carolina Medical Center, what you want? And they was like, you got a daughter named Sandra Adams? I'm like, yeah, I do. No, Miss Christian said. I was like, yeah, I do. So anyway, they tell me, well, you need to get here as soon as possible. She's been shot and she's in surgery, having an emergency C-section. And I'm telling you, you know how sometimes the word can be logos? That means it's on paper, it's in the Bible, you read it. But sometimes it jumps out at you and it becomes that rhema word, that spoken word. It becomes real to you. That word about wailing women became a rhema word in my life that night. I just remember dropping to the floor and just everything, whatever sounds were in me, just came up out of me. In fact, later on, my neighbor said she was the one that had called the police because she thought somebody was attacking them. I don't even remember how I drove to the hospital. But I remember getting there and waiting, calling other family members for them to come in, and getting there and just waiting because they wouldn't let me go back to see her. And Ray comes in, and he comes in with another woman and a friend of his with his girlfriend. So I'm over there fuming, and I'm thinking, you know, the audacity of you to bring somebody else to this hospital. Because I had been calling him and calling him and calling him. He showed up probably about 3 or 4 hours later. Right? But I was calling him because I'm like, well, maybe he doesn't know what happened. So I called his pager. Back then we had pagers. I called on his pager, called on his cell phone, didn't get no answer. So when he walked in, I did go over and, you know, at this point, I'm really mad. So we had some words, and the people came out, let me know that Sharika had delivered Chancellor and by cesarean, and that he was in the neonatal intensive care, and they wanted to know if I wanted to go see Chancellor. So I did take Ray with me to see him. He didn't want to touch him or anything, but he did want a picture. And he said to me that night that I want the picture because this is probably the last time I'll get to see you. Well, that just solidified it for me. I knew he did it. So that is how I got here. Shortly after this happened, I had a conversation with my pastor, Gould, and his wife, and Sister Marlon told me that you need to forgive right away. And forgiveness is not about a feeling. Amen. Forgiveness is a decision you make. And it's a decision you make to free yourself. You may not feel like it, but you do it. You may have to do it more than once, but you do it. because this is going to set you free. Because no, he might not deserve forgiveness, but I do.
Yeah, yeah.
So as the years went on, we have embarked on sharing our message of forgiveness with as many people as we can. I do go to jails and prisons and share the word of forgiveness, because Christ has forgiven us for all that we did. Even them should be able to be redeemed.
Amen.
I don't even wish hell on Ray Caruth or any of the other 3 people that were involved. So we preach, teach, speak on a message of reconciliation, that you can be reconciled. And when I saw your topic about the woman behind the mask, I'm like, this is just so fitting, because most of the groups that I go speak to, I speak to them about domestic violence. Then I thought, well, it's not for the church. I don't know if I should get up in the pulpit talking about domestic violence, but it happens in the church too.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So we do have to talk about it, because we do all wear masks, whether consciously or unconsciously. Sometimes we as Black people have been conditioned to wear masks as a cover-up. Men especially have to portray themselves so differently out in the world to their white counterparts, while you're a different person with your fellas.
Yeah.
And as women, being masked is kind of a normal thing. We don a mask at home. We got one for work. We got one with our friends. And we all know that old saying that goes around our community sometimes. What goes on in this house stays in this house. So we've learned to keep silent and cover up and mask what is going on in our lives. People mask to allow themselves to cope, sometimes just with daily life. Sometimes it's caused by childhood traumas of sadness, depression, vulnerability, and to hide fear. So in unhealthy relationships, people engage in a lot of camouflaging. And they mask to keep the other person happy, particularly when you've been through verbal, emotional, physical, sexual abuse. Masking kind of just feels like surviving.
Yeah.
So people also mask because they want acceptance. That's at the root of all of us. We want to be accepted. And you want to feel like you belong. So much so that some of us, and I used to be one of them, became a people pleaser. And sometimes you mask to make light of your distresses. Humor becomes a protective shield against bullying. Some even go as far as self-depreciation whenever they're in the limelight. They just can't take being in the limelight. They jokingly refer to themselves like, oh, I'm just a loser, so that you can make other people feel comfortable. Amen. And even the most confident people wear masks, sometimes to disguise their emotions, because sometimes they're full of anger, rage, jealousy, abuse, harassment. They feel full of rejection. And some confident people even become overachievers.
Amen.
They feel like they got to do everything excellent. You all know Oprah has told her story many times how she became an overachiever because she was masking. And when we mask, we really do have a breakdown in communication. And the breakdown is really wide between men and women. So a husband goes to his pastor and he tells his pastor, my wife is absolutely historical when she's mad. And the pastor says, historical? No, you mean she's hysterical. The man said, oh no, she's historical. She brings up everything. She can't focus on now for telling me she got a list. I don't know what she keeps. Everything that I done wrong. And another example of this breakdown, a husband goes to his wife and he says, honey, you're negative. She says, well, you're a selfish, narcissistic, low-life, egotistical, mean-spirited weasel. And the husband saying, where'd that come from? I was talking about your COVID results. Offended people draw very misinterpreted conclusions. And it's called hurt people. Luke 12:2-5 tells us that you can't keep your true self hidden forever. You can't even hide behind religious masks forever. Sooner or later, the mask will slip and your true face will be known.
Amen.
So nowadays, some people look to the church